Hi, my name is Sydney Peoples, and I volunteered with the organization Habitat for Humanity. I'm going to start with the what portion, and that's what I did that day. I arrived there around 8:30 in the morning with my boyfriend Matt and was greeted by the Coatesville site director, Milby Thornington. He explained the goals of the day and also went through a brief history of the house and the organization with us, which was super interesting because we have never volunteered with them before. After that, it was time to get our first jobs, and my first job was to Windex and wipe down all the windows to make sure they were clean and there was no dust on them. It sounds like a really easy job, but I am 5'3" and most of the windows were about 7 feet tall in this house, and it was quite a challenge for me to get up there. But I did it, I persevered. I maybe jumped a little bit to get it, but I did do it. Then I came downstairs, and all the boys, I was the only girl, were figuring out how to take apart a fridge that was delivered and placed in the wrong area and couldn't fit through doorways. And they asked me if I was able to carry about 80 pounds of weight while moving, and I respectfully declined and said, I don't think I'll be able to do that. I was given a different job in the master bedroom and one smaller bedroom to clean them, dust them, make sure absolutely no dust was on the floor. And I did this through first sweeping up the floors as much as I could. I then vacuumed all that dust up, and then finally I used a Swiffer wet jet to make sure the floors were as clean as possible. After that, I was given a piece of sandpaper about this big, and I hand went through and got all the little drops of paint that were on the floor from them painting the wall off the floor, which sounds easy, but it took forever because whoever painted the walls did not use a tarp, and that was shared with me by the site director. So I was doing some hard scrubbing on the floor for quite a bit of time. After I did the master bedroom and the smaller bedroom with this process, I then went into the process of sealing the floor. I used a smaller paintbrush and then a roller paintbrush. I used the smaller paintbrush to edge the room, and that basically makes sure none of the sealant gets on the trim on the floor. And I didn't know that that was a thing until that day, so I was learning a bunch of new stuff. And then I also used the roller brush and learned the proper technique, which is to make a shape of an N, and then from this top part, go back down and do it the reverse. It covers about a rectangular area, however big you make the N, and that makes sure that there's limited streaks on the floor. So I did that, and I did it in the smaller bedroom also, and that concluded my day of work. We did have a lunch break in there, but that felt like it went by like that. And after my day of work, I was truly exhausted, and I was only there for 7 hours, and I felt completely drained by the end of it. So now I'm going to go into the so what portion. I'm going to first start by talking about the slideshow economic differences among families, and specifically the myths about poverty we learned in that. Some of the myths about poverty, most of the myths about poverty revolved around people in poverty wanting handouts and taking and not putting any work into what they have. And through Habitat for Humanity, I've learned that that's not true, especially in their organization. The people receiving their homes are not getting it for free. They have to pay money. It's a cheaper option, but they also have to qualify for it, which is a different level than the basic poverty levels, and they also have to put in 200 hours of sweat equity. And I know I was exhausted from 7 hours. I cannot imagine doing 200. And I just have to say that the people doing those hours have to be some of the hardest working people I know. It is such a draining day, and I have so much respect for anyone who does it to that extent. They are so hardworking and doing so much for their family to receive a better life, receive a better home. It was mind-blowing to me reading those myths after having that experience, because the people involved in this program truly are insanely hard workers. Then I'm also going to talk about the microsystem in Bronfenbrenner's theory, and specifically the impacts of the home on the child in the microsystem. I was reading what's in the microsystem, such as family, the availability of food, like everything that directly impacts the child is really in their microsystem. And I think that the home really contributes to most of the things in that system. It's going to attribute to the stress levels of the parents, the quality of the the parenting and the atmosphere of the house. It just has so many impacts on that child having a stable home environment. It truly trickles down Bronfenbrenner's system all the way to the exosystem. It's just crazy to me, the importance of a home that I've learned throughout this class, and then comparing it to the people who are volunteering, the people who are working towards getting a house, and the level of dedication they have to bettering the children's home lives and the adults' home lives. It makes people's lives better, and that's just like great. Another thing I'm going to discuss is from one of the articles we read, which is Chapter 1, Families, Schools, and Communities, Building Partnerships for Education. And one of the things that stood out to me was a quote from page 10 that says, "Thinking is determined by historical and social influences." And I really was thinking about kids' self-esteem growing up, and them growing up without a home and living on the streets, and their self-esteem and how they're going to feel through school, through everything, compared to growing up in a house, which is thankfully what, through hard work, their family would be receiving from Habitat. And I really think that goes with poverty, it goes with everything. Their lives are going to be increased self-esteem-wise through school, through education, through everything by that. And society puts really negative connotations with poverty, and these people are working so hard to get out of poverty. I just think it's crazy. And I think that these kids are definitely very affected by Vygotsky's sociocultural theory. I'm now going to move on to the now what, some of my reflections and what I think and what I'm going to be taking away. I'm actually going to share another quote from the article we read, Family, Schools, Communities, Building Partnerships for Educating. And this quote is from page 20. It says, "Advocate to receive needs services." And that's something the family can do. And that's what all the families that are involved with Habitat are doing. And this goes into me being a teacher, because I can help those families advocate for themselves by sharing some of the resources this organization has. I learned so much about so many things they do for all different communities. They do stuff for children in Africa. They do stuff for widespread around the world, which I think is such a fantastic thing. And I love that I got the experience to work with an agency that does this. I also will want to share some of their resources that aren't necessarily just homes. They also have a restore program, which is kind of like a consignment store, but it's strictly for house things. It's for cleaning supplies, for housing materials, for basically anything like that. And I think that's a great resource to share with any families that are struggling economically. I also would love to bring this into my classroom and work with this organization in a way that elementary students can help. Obviously not building a home, but I read some things on the Habitat for Humanity website where they make Christmas cards to send to kids who are in poverty. They do little crafts to send to kids who are in poverty. And I just would really love to bring that into my classroom, along with sharing this resource and what they do with the families of the kids. And I think that would be a really good way to share the program without specifically calling out one family. But yeah, I absolutely love my time volunteering with Habitat for Humanity, and I really hope that I'll have the opportunity to talk about it more and hopefully inspire some other people to go work with them, because it was a really great experience. Thanks, bye.